Good morning, good evening. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this new webinar today. I think we're extremely grateful to have Christina Wing with us, to have Emine Sabancı Kamişlı joining us today to talk about probably one of the most important topics in families, one of the reasons why families, join Christine's at Harvard, joins Wingspan, joins Trusted Family, and is top of mind for a lot of our clients is really how do we empower this rising generation? How do we prepare them? How do we educate them? How do we onboard them to becoming responsible owners for their respective families? It's paramount. And so to help us kind of navigate and learn about this topic, who better than Emine, representing the Sabancı family behind Esas Holding, and also Christina Wing with her breadth of experience, having founded Wingspan Legacy Partners and is a faculty member of Harvard Business School. Great to have both of you. Thank you so much for as I said, taking the time this morning or this evening for connecting.
Thank you.
Maybe before handing over the floor, Christina, maybe a few words about yourself. I received, a little bio, spoke a bit. I think Emine, difficult to summarize everything, but you're a co-founder and vice chairperson of Esas Holding and really a visionary force behind Esas Social, one of Turkey's, pioneering social impact investment initiative. Emine graduated from London School of Economics maybe last year, has developed a career in several leadership positions at the Sabancı Holding companies, and now champions a lot of projects within the families and within the ecosystem with youth employment policies, equity opportunities, women's entrepreneurship projects, and has earned her repeated recognition from Fortune, Forbes, Fast Companies, and many others as Turkey's most inspiring and sustainable driven businesswoman. So, Emine, thank you so much for today.
I don't know. I think I can go now, huh?
I don't know what I can say on my side. I feel very small, but thank you so much, Emine. It's great to have you on board. Christina, thank you so much. Christina is a founder of Wingspan Legacy Partner, a faculty member of Harvard Business School, where she teaches a lot of amazing programs on family enterprises, on ownership structures, on intergenerational transitions. Topic of today is spot on, everything you're doing with families there. She created an MBA course on demystifying families in business and chairs executive education programs for families, family businesses, family offices. You're a former CEO of a family office and investment banker at Goldman Sachs. You've combined, your personal experience as a founding family member and, your deep expertise in legacy planning and family governance, which you hold at heart, and you do amazing jobs there with Wingspan Legacy. So
you're making me bored listening to us. I mean, it's like that's enough. We sound like we don't have fun. We're also fun. Part of being in the family space is having fun, and I can attest that Emine has fun as well. So that's important for the rising gen.
You wouldn't be able to do your job properly if it wasn't fun either. So thanks all for inspiration. Short word about myself. So I'm in charge of the growth team here at Trusted Family, and I'm also a 6th generation member of the Solvay and Syensqo family businesses here in Belgium. Next gen, I'll try to get the learnings and take the learnings back home. But really looking forward to listening to what you have to share. So Christina, Emine, I'll let you lead the show. Exploring the lessons from your own families and experiences. For everybody listening in, there's a chat function that you can use at the bottom somewhere of your screen. Please, throughout the session, ask your questions. I'll make sure to reply to them and to answer them as we do go through the webinar.
Wonderful. Okay, so with that, I want to encourage people to ask questions, and we will interrupt in the real time and answer some of them. So feel free to throw them in. So let's start at the beginning. Did you know you were a rising gen when you were young?
No, but I knew I had a mission in life. And it wasn't just sitting on a pile of wealth, but doing something productive and sustainable be it in business, be it in philanthropy, be it in raising kids, be it in being a responsible person. So rising gen, I think I'm still a rising gen, Christina. I saw on the note saying former rising gen, Emine Kamişlı. I know, I saw this note. And I think I'm still a rising gen. I think this is the way we need to look forward to continue to enjoy what we do and to be productive.
I think that's such a great comment because we want to encourage entrepreneurship. And so you should have another chapter you're rising into. But let's talk about the beginning. You grew up in a family that had a very large business. Yes. And how did you decide to go into the business? Was it an obligation? Did you ask? Did they ask you? How did that come about?
Well, actually, I knew always that I would work. Okay. And from the earliest time, I remember saying to my dad, I'm going to be your assistant. That was, when I was like 8, that was the aspiration. And it translated into that over the years, where he bestowed a lot of trust in me and transferred the management of a lot of things. But I think here, Christina, education is very important. Education is important for your self-sufficiency, being out of the comfort zone and surviving. So I went to boarding school, as is in my CV. And looking back now that I'm rising into another era, I look back and actually I see that the things that are critical to success are the things I learned at boarding school. This is really important. This is so important, like because of all of these things, I came out confident because of the boarding school. What do I mean? For example, you can have in business mishaps, you can have failures. We all do. But as long as you have the main goal and overall there's a success, it's forgotten. The success is remembered. The same thing in boarding school. I was always in trouble. But because my grades, the main goal then, were perfect, they couldn't do anything to me. They had to humor me, right? And getting to a boarding school at the age of 11, not speaking English, and then surviving there, not in a comfort zone, and being an ex. Remember, at that time, I'm still coming from the wealthiest family. If I was brought up here, I wouldn't be an ex, any person. That gave me self-sufficiency. And it taught me that, you can be self-sufficient if you have a team, good friends. So that teamwork translates to success here. So
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But yes. Independence at age 11, I didn't realize that you went to a non-Turkish boarding school at age 11. Why did your parents pick that? Did they pick that to toughen you up? Did you pick it?
No, I didn't pick it. My father was influenced by a friend of his, and I had great time, and I think it set the ground for my future self. Because that self-sufficiency is so important, especially if you're sitting in huge comfort with a lot of wealth, right? So the teachings there I passed on to the rising gen, to my kids too.
Well, before we get to
it's
them,
so important.
Let's talk about this. So you had an education, you learned self-sufficiency, you came back to Turkey, still a woman, by the way,
yes.
And you joined a very large family business.
Yes.
Being a woman, was that a problem?
No, because, my father was an exceptional person, really, God bless his soul, that he really raised us in a tough way. One girl or boy. Mm-hmm. This is, I came here with a knowledge that I'm a person. I'm not a businesswoman. I'm a business person. right? I'm not when people say woman entrepreneur, I say, no, I'm an entrepreneur. So that was embedded into our lives from day one, you know, through my father and his teachings.
So it's one thing to have the patriarch feel that way, but it's another thing to have people that didn't have the education you have accept that. Were there struggles in the early days at Sabancı with colleagues and others?
No, actually, there was a struggle in a different way, you know, because there are a lot of women in my generation in Sabancı, and I had a different struggle, Christina, because I chose to be in insurance. I did 3 years in the City of London in a reinsurance company. I worked there, and then I came to Turkey, and it was amazing. This insurance company belonged to Sabancı for so many years, and nobody from the family came there. So the first thing was, I was there, and they said, okay, whatever she says is right. This was the barrier I had to get over. And I was saying, no, because I'm a family member doesn't make it right, whatever I say. You know, this was an enormous barrier for me. And especially I had a case, I said to one of the guys, I said, look, I need this report. I'm trying to go from A to B, and I think methodology is Z. And he disappeared for 1 week, and it shouldn't have taken 1 week. So I called him, and I said, what happened? He goes, you can't get to B. I said, why not? Methodology is wrong. Since when do you know this? He said, as you were telling me, I knew it was wrong, but I was trying to get to the methodology you suggested. This was such a barrier for me because to get over, you know. So I said to him, look, we're doing this work together. If it succeeds, I will name you. If it fails, I will say he was part of it too. So other than being a woman, I think I faced more being a family member coming into the business because they didn't know why I was there.
It's such a good point because so many family members actually like to surround themselves with yes men and women because they like to always feel right. And that is what gives all family members that join businesses a bad name because some actually want to be challenged. So you taught early on that you wanted to be challenged. Did it work?
Absolutely. And then they started challenging me. So that's the teamwork coming out because you have resources there, human resources. They're great people, but they're being utilized in a different way, especially where I was involved, to please me rather than the business.
We definitely do not want the rising to have everybody be differential to them. So let's talk about this. I found this shocking over the years. You know, you were in this giant company and the family was all together, and you and your father decided to leave the first family business and become entrepreneurs in a new family business. So in some ways, you're G whatever in that business, but you're kind of almost G1 in the new business / G2. How did you decide to leave?
Well, there were certain things that were going on. And I don't know if we'll go into details, but lessons learned for successfulness in family businesses, sustainability. And in our case, I understood after working like 10 years in the family business, and I was in high positions, including the main board of the Sabancı. And I saw that family came first rather than business. If you're a family member, you had a job. If you and the family members, they almost all get paid the same, whether they came into the office or not, because they had a title. These were wrong things, and actually, my father was pushing this before even we set up Esas, saying this is wrong, this is not good for the sustainability, because we will not be able to hire the best people because they know all the best positions, highest positions will be blocked by family. So he came around with an idea that every clan should have only one person working within the whole system. But
so let me interrupt you for a minute, because I'm very used to the word clan because I've worked with you, but many people on the phone are like, what does she mean there's a clan? Can you explain
clan
that?
is shareholders that we had 5 brothers at Sabancı. Each one was turned as a clan, okay? And their descendants belong to XYZ clan.
Right.
So my father said, you know, this is wrong. We cannot have kids plus spouses all over the place. And but it wasn't very liked. This idea wasn't very liked because it didn't.
No, because you were going to unemploy a lot of people.
And you had a lot of people who didn't have alternatives. So there came a point, he was pushing this, and then there came a point as a rising gen, I was still a rising gen then, we had a huge earthquake in Turkey. And I'm in the insurance company, and 10% of the entire insured liability of the earthquake in 1999 was with our insurance company.
Ooh.
And that was like several times more than the paid-in capital of the company, right? And but the team had steered, and luckily I was in that team, steered this risk so well that the cost to the insurance company was $250,000.
Wow.
This was incredible. We could have lost the entire company, but because of the correct reinsurances, policies, structures. And then I went to the chairman of the insurance company. I said, this is a one-off thing. At that time in Sabancı, we didn't have a bonus system or carry system. I said, we need to pay the reinsurance team. We need to reward them. He said, no. I said, what do you mean no? He said, this is not acceptable in the system. I said, earthquake is not acceptable in the system, you know?
Wow.
And then I used my powers. That was the first time, as a family member, I went to the CFO. I said, pay these people. I'm taking the risk. And at that time, the main chairman, Mr. Şevket Sabancı of the Sabancı board, he rang me. He said, is it true what I heard? That is, our loss is only $250,000. I said, yes. He said, well done. And I said, by the way, I'm rewarding the team. He said, okay, I'm not asking anything else. Yeah, sometimes you need to do this. This was the only time I pulled the string by being a family member. But that said to me, this is so wrong. We need to be working with best people. At that time, obviously, we were working with best people to save the company. And it didn't happen. So I moved more towards my father's inclinations that we should set up the company, and resigned in year 2000 and started Esas.
Did you feel like a lack of identity leaving the family business because you'd been raised in it, and then 10 years in it? Were you like, oh, what are we doing?
No, actually, because I had huge support of my father. And I knew we could create the difference. Christina, this is also important. When you have that golden bracelet, your education, and it's not just academic education, it's education of lifetime, values, and principles, and you know what you're doing, right? I said, yes, this could work. But it was funny, you know, at that time, I'm going to say it in square meters, not feet, but my room as the managing director of the insurance company, my room was 150 square meters. The first Esas office was 120 square meters, the entire office.
It was a big shift, downshift.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this. You and your father left, but your brother stayed at Sabancı. How was that? Because we sometimes see when families have rising gens and one stays at the mothership and one leaves, it becomes complicated.
Well, at that time, until he left, we had a Chinese wall. He didn't get himself confused there or there. But there came a time that he saw the opportunity too, and I always say, it was the best transfer we did, and it was for free, getting him on board, you know. Okay. And now he's the leader of the company, doing very well.
So why don't you tell us really quickly so that the audience understands, you went from a very large operating company, and what is Esas? What did you build?
Okay. First of all, I think we built a mentality at Esas. Okay. As I said, I don't want to be called a woman entrepreneur. I think we need to move away from saying family business. It's a business. So at Esas, we learned from our previous mistakes. From my mother's side, they had no governance. The company went bankrupt. It was the biggest company in Turkey. My father's side, Sabancı, we didn't have succession plan, and it was children everywhere. Meritocracy was limited. And then we built Esas, and the first thing we said was that this is a wealth creation mechanism, not a job creation mechanism.
I love that.
Yeah.
While we're talking, maybe pull up the slide on Esas,
yes.
So that people can see the magnitude while we're talking about it. So a wealth creation, not a job creation.
Yeah. This is key for survival, sustainability of any business, right? Now, what we did at Esas, we started in 2000, and the first 7 or 8 years, it was a learning curve. And then when we started at Esas, we had majority of our wealth tied to 2 stocks and 100% in Turkey. This was wrong. We needed to diversify, not because we're in Turkey. Not this slide, the other slide, please.
This slide.
This one, right. So what we achieved at Esas over the 25 years is that being concentrated in 2 stocks, luckily they were both publicly traded, we have built a huge company that does private equity, real estate, venture capital, wealth management, and it's gone over to 6 continents. And we have 70 people, core people at headquarters. But altogether, I think we're close to 15,000 people when you count the companies. And it's I'm very happy to say, we divested the concentration, and we divested the sectors and geography. So today we're looking at...
Let me interrupt you for a second. When some people hear this, they might be hearing you went from being in an operating company to starting a family office. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, do you think Esas was really a family office before we had family offices?
Absolutely. I mean, the year 2000, I'm going to go back, 2008 crisis, it showed the importance of family offices rather than private banks, okay? Because you were being oversold the same security 5 times and there was nothing, no collateral at the other end. And family offices were being built. So we built a family office, but now it's become an operating company, actually handling third-party money. This is very important. This is evolution. Family office, divesting the concentration of assets and divesting the concentration geographically as well, okay? And building the team. This is the key thing, building the team. And it went along. And now, if you look at our numbers as of Jan 225, it says, we distributed 1.7 billion out of the 2.2 that's invested, and the AUM is 8.5. This number would have been like, if we stayed in this single stocks, the two stocks, and in geography, this number would have been nowhere near this. Let me say that. Nowhere near this.
What's so interesting about this is that most people that create a family office fail at the beginning. And they fail because a family office doesn't have a mission like you did with wealth creation. And a family office, when they're first created, is normally a place for people to work that they don't have anywhere else to work. But you guys created a business, and the business was built on the mentality of having governance, succession, and meritocracy. How did that work with you and your brother as you were both rising gens? How did you two work together in this business?
I think we had a lucky chemistry. And at the end, we see eye to eye, but you can see that I turn left, he turns right, but we meet in the middle, right?
On the other side.
Yeah, no, on the right side, on the right side. And I think communication here is so important, okay? Not taking anything personally. This is so important, okay? We were both rising gens, but when it came to 2020, it was logical for my brother to become the chairman. It was logical because his aspirations to take the structure further was beyond mine, right? It was beyond mine, and acceptance of that, I think, helped the growth. But his energy helped a lot for this.
So this is an important point because in the rising gen pecking order, where things go sideways is around ego and also difference of risk. So you exhibited no ego and that he could have that role. How about risk? Was your risk tolerance the same?
Yes.
So that's fabulous.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when I say same, obviously some of the things he said he's going to do, I didn't know he could do, but he's done it in the last 5 years. So I was a bit wary at the beginning, but I believed in him, right? And the team around him.
So let's talk about this. How many G3s are rising below you and Ali?
Well, we have in the G3, we have 6 members. 2 are still at college, okay? And 1 is in the business directly, leading one of our most important business lines, the real estate line. And 2 are board members at Esas, the main board. And 1 used to do the VC under Esas name, but he spun out and he's doing his own VC fund, but we are LPs in it, right?
So we'll talk about that, but I want to know, how did you educate this rising gen to be responsible owners of the business you built?
Yes. Now, Christina, this is a topic I'm thinking about because everybody's saying, how did you educate the rising gen? I think it started with educating the current gen. I think this is so important. And first we need to educate ourselves because we've raised this next gen with education, with values, family unity, whatever. So first of all, we need to trust what we raised. We need to be honest with ourselves, right? And we need to empower them while we're still in health. If God forbid something happens, we can clean up. Thank God nothing has happened yet. But I think first it begins with educating the current gen. For example, the family constitution, when we were starting writing this, or revising it even, Ali and I, we decided it shouldn't be us, it should be next gen, because it's their problem, this constitution, you know?
Well, so it's there for them.
It's there for them, you know? And so I think it begins with that, the rising gens.
Hold on, I got to stop, because this is not a normal mindset for the existing gen to feel like almost they have to change to make room for the rising gen. Normally, the rising gen is like, please change, do something. How did you and your brother get that mindset? Was it from your father?
Yes, from our father, and also now we need to understand our generation, especially. I'm not talking for the generation before us or the one after us, but our generation, especially, Christina, we've gone through where television came to our house when I was 9 years old, right? And then all of these changes happened. Now we have AI. And I'm very happy to say I'm technologically declined. That gives me comfort. So within one generation, we've seen so many things. Mm-hmm. Among these so many things, we were brought up with having a factory, industrial complex, producing whatever, and giving you $100 million. But now times have changed. A guy, 20-year-old, 25-year-old, does a game and sells the game, he has 100 million. So we need to understand times have changed. Is it, how realistic is it for me to adapt to this change? It's not very realistic, okay? So we need to understand that the next gen, they need to learn about risk and reward. And we've given them the values and teachings, and then they will find their ways. I mean, some of the things they did in VC, I swear, you know, it came out, the fund paid out in 4 years, 4 times the money. I didn't understand 95% of what they invested in.
So wait, let's talk about this. So
it goes forward, so we need to let it go forward.
So one of the rising gen wanted to create venture capital. You did it inside Esas, and then it did 4 times its money, but then he wanted to take it out of Esas. Why did he want to do that?
No, actually, first he set it up himself. Then we said, this basket is missing in Esas. Why don't you do it under Esas name? He did the funding under Esas name. And then he wanted to take it out because the way it's run, the VC is run, didn't fit in the way that everything else is run. So it's a different mentality in VC, and different risk appetite, everything. And so he said, okay, the second fund, please, can you be LPs? And I'll get on with my own governance structure. So this is...
That's hard for a lot of families. I mean, a lot of families would take the approach of, we seeded you, you're doing well, keep it inside, because they would feel that would give them control. And you didn't want control?
No, you have to face the realities. VC world is not the same as PE world or real estate world. Okay? You can see PE and real estate and wealth management in the same basket, in the same mentality. But we understood that this is the change I'm trying to explain, that different things are done in a different way. Okay? At the moment, we're an LP. Hopefully, he delivers again. If he doesn't, we look elsewhere. So you have to be clear in communication, net in communication. Writing the family council is not enough.
So one of the things that strikes me with a lot of the rising gens that I work with is fear of failure. And how do you encourage the rising gen to take chances and fail? Like I always say, fail fast, but if you don't fail, you don't learn. I fail at something every day, but the rising gen is nervous about failure.
I think it's not just the rising gen. If you have something to lose, you fear, right? If you don't have anything to lose, you're more courageous. So I think it's through communications, really open communication lines amongst ourselves. And we don't want them flying off to the moon because that's not reality either. But that entrepreneurial spirit is there if they want. Okay, so if we see it there, we listen. The team, resources are in the team, not me or Ali necessarily. And so we encourage them. We encourage them, even though sometimes we don't understand what they're doing.
When would you say you and Ali made a mistake with the rising gen, or you wish you had handled something differently?
I think, I don't know, actually. I'm sure we made mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes, but I'm saying that when you focus on the main goal, as I said before, overall, we're doing okay. We have the rising gen working in the family business, not working in the family business, but the important thing is we have them all connected. We have them all connected.
So that's an interesting thing. You say you have them all connected. How have you kept family connectivity without everyone working together? Because so many families feel like they have to work together to be together.
You don't need work to be together. That's the first rule. And but for family businesses, I think it's very important to be together because at the end of the day, it's the shareholder who decides, who votes, who buys or sells, can cause disruption. But the key thing is that you need to have aware and informed family members. Okay, even if they're not working day to day in the business, they need to be informed. This information is so important, and I think it's one of the points in Trusted Families, 6 points, Arno, one of the 6 points, the poor communication. Now, for example, if the company is making a huge investment, and if the family hears about this on the media, it can cause problems with a few of them. So it's just telephone call. This is exactly the same thing that somebody was telling me yesterday. I think Jamie Dimon, he makes 50 calls a day to clients. Clients are his partners. So it's just 50 calls, 2 minutes, saying, by the way, you'll read in the paper, this is what happened. This is one of the basic things to keep the unity together, okay?
At what age, though? Like, how early do you start making those calls? Do the kids in college get that call?
No. Kids in college, when they're about 18, we have a monthly meeting where the family meets. And in the wealth management side, which used to be the old family office, where everybody over the 18, every shareholder can attend. So the kids in college, if they're here, they attend as well. And but anybody is out of college, and we're not that many, so it's easy now. It's easy for me to say, I know you're going to say this, but it's very important to give the basics.
So one of the things, you've been in my classroom a lot, and you know that my students feel very lonely before they find their people in the classroom, because many feel they can't talk about being from a family business because it's kind of like complaining about great wealth or this. How do you recommend that family members not just connect with each other, but connect with like-minded, similar positioned people?
I think it's very important. That's why we encourage them, all of them, to go to seminars, conferences, or units like Wingspan's conferences, meetings. This is very important because you learn something. In our time, when I was that age, we were not so aware to enhance personal abilities. Now we understand this is so important because the more you enhance that, the more beneficial it becomes to the business and then the community.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Wingspan Forum. We use Trusted Family for all of our educational content and everything else, so that there's a hub where people can connect. Because I find, at least, and I came from a family business, I was completely lonely. There was nobody I could talk to about it, but I'm much older than the rising gen we're talking about. And like you, I still think I'm a rising gen because I have other chapters coming. But that connectivity is hard to find in a safe environment. And you come from a country where about 8 to 10 families have a disproportionate amount of influence in that country. It must be even harder in Turkey.
Yes, that's why they need to be global citizens. Our next gen, they're fluent in English, of course, some of them in French and German as well. So they need to be global citizens. They should not shy in any area. Like Wingspan Forum, a 24-year-old came, and he did really well, I heard. Feedback from your team. He was the youngest member. He did really well. What did he know about Esas? He needed enough to represent Esas there. Not day-to-day, but he knew who to connect to for detail. This is what we need to get, okay? These are all ambassadors of the business.
It's actually, don't mind, Christina, it's actually really interesting because I'm having a few questions and I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but one question here I think is very relevant. It's because, you know, you mentioned your 22-year-old going through a program and just understands enough about Esas. At what age do the younger generation, the G3, start learning about their petting wealth? You know, the fact that they're going to, at what age do they learn that they're going to be inheriting a lot of wealth? What type of wealth is it they're inheriting? At what time do you start that onboarding of the third generation?
I don't know, that's beyond our control. You know, they have all the internet and wealth, the fortune lists, and so as long as they can read, they start at the age of what wealth they have.
And do you have a process for that, or is it because, you know, you need to control that maybe at one point, not necessarily control, but educate at one point?
Absolutely. So we need to, first of all, get them correctly educated university-wise, and they all need to go to, they don't need to, but they do. They need to do internships in other companies. You know, internships are to decide what you don't want, not what you want. This is what I say. And so all of them, they've done internships. The ones in the business, they have all worked outside. They need to work outside Esas. And then they can join on merits. If everything is equal, obviously they will be chosen. But they're aware that it's a responsibility to have this wealth. And I think one of the most important part of education is teaching them all that we're just guardians of this wealth. So we need to be good guardians.
I think I would add to the comment that, you know, there are many ways for people, young people, to Google. In the United States, they Zillow or your house. And it's very important to make sure they have correct information. And just because they understand the wealth, it doesn't mean they're getting the wealth. Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to start early, because we don't want anyone assuming just because they think their family is worth X, that money's all flowing to them. You know, we want motivated, responsible young people. And so to answer bluntly, educate them as soon as they're ready to be educated about anything else, is my view. Now, so I want to ask maybe a kind of touchy question. In my classroom, I always ask families if their family prioritize country, family, or business. And I'm not going to ask you that. But what I am going to ask you is, as your G3 have really become very global citizens, are they as attached to Turkey? And how that matters is you run one of the largest philanthropic organizations in Turkey. Will that be sustainable with a rising gen that might not live in Turkey?
Absolutely. Because we are a global family now, people living in other areas. But Christina, we set up the philanthropic activity as a business line. So when you see in the slide 6 business lines, philanthropy is a business line for Esas. Okay, it's funded by Esas balance sheet and people who donate to the system, right? So this was very important for us for sustainability, okay, and accountability. Because when you do it as a business line, it has KPIs, just as the PE does, real estate does, right? So we structured the whole system that is sustainable, accountable, and measurable. I think we're the only company in youth unemployment that we touch that does social return on investment calculations, independent. Okay, and for the programs that we run, these are very important.
So do you feel that some of the rising gens might take over that line of business? Do you see people having entrepreneurial ideas outside of almost for money profit, but for social profit?
Yes, I definitely do. In fact, one of my younger son, he has his own foundation as well. So the family has grown up with this inherent willingness to give back. So now we have a vehicle that they can utilize that willingness. Okay, so hopefully somebody will take over. I think the social impact side is got a wonderful team running itself, but more than the others will need someone from the family to champion it into the future. But it's doing great things. Last week we got the last social return on investment on the second program. It came back at 6.6. So $1 goes $6.6. This is a record in that category. Okay. So we need to get this going. This is very important because we learned, Arno, we learned so much. We're talking about rising gen. All of the problems that we're talking about rising gen, educating, getting them involved, actually, we are seeing them in the youth in general. It's the youth in general, they have the same things. It's rising general in the community we should be talking about.
Not just family enterprises. So, I know we're coming towards the end of our time, but there's been several questions around how have you actually now approached the succession planning for Esas as a whole? Like who's taking over for you and Ali when you're not in that role?
We're working on it. We're working on it. What did you expect, Christina?
I kind of set you up because I knew that answer.
Yeah.
But we're working on it is kind of most families.
We're working on the ideas.
But you're working on it with intentionality. And so are you gathering intel with the family around, would you be comfortable going from being owner operator of Esas to owner investors? And is there a scenario where it could be the head could not be a family member?
Absolutely. We've done this first step. One of our flagship companies, the chairman is a non-family member. So we have a CEO in one of the flagships as a woman. So we've overcome these things. Whatever is good for the business, it needs to be sustainable. Then the shareholder will be happy. Okay? And then it will be sustainable. So when I say we're working on it, yes, we have ideas, and what the business needs will be done. Today, we've taken, not today, 2 years ago, we've taken a huge step forward, getting in third-party money. As I said, important part of the AUM comes from third-party money, and this is global third-party money, important global third-party money. People asked us, why are you doing this? We said, because if third-party money comes here, because it's good they're coming, then it's good for me. Okay? So we have already started getting ourselves, and we are not started, we are amidst being globally accepted structure, investment structure. You know, we have 70 partners investing with us, institutions and families. So this is very, very important. What the business needs, business will get.
So you've moved, you know, from an operating company to creating a family office to now creating an alternatives platform for other people to invest with you.
Exactly.
Which is a very different business.
No, it's continuation of the business. It's insurance for the current owners. Because then the compliance, the governance needs to be there.
It's exactly
so
right.
We cannot disrupt it as family members.
You can't just argue. You've got other people's capital. So
yeah.
let me ask you this as a final question, and then I don't know if you have a final question. I was going to ask you what your advice would be to the rising gen, but I'm not. I'm going to ask you what your advice is to the existing gen to help and encourage the rising gen.
I think, as I said before, first of all, trust what you raised. Don't be scared of them. Really don't be scared of them. And however stupid the ideas may sound, and you may not understand it, ask around, but give them the chance. Because what you raised, at least 50% will be a copy of you. Okay? So you have to be fair on yourself. But I think they need to accept the realities. And I think one of the things, Christina, that this current gen are so still involved in working, they are not sharing the experiences enough. I think this is so important. Lessons learned. The lessons I learned don't exist anymore because times have changed. But still, there may be one or two sentences coming out of it. You know, like I said, teach them risk and reward, right? And empower the gen and financially empower the gen as well. Financially empower them too. It's their money.
I got to tell you, there are a bunch of rising gens on this phone that are cheering for you right now, and
really?
probably hope that you would leave your current job and become a family advisor because they could use you to discuss things with their parents. Are not anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I mean, Emine, I think you've summarized it actually extremely well in the last sentence. You know, I think what I've learned clearly is about, you know, you started by educating the current generation. I think it's amazing and it's great and it's refreshing to hear, you know, educate ourselves, understand how the world evolves around us also, because clearly the world is evolving, and it's about educating the current generation and the future generation together that will make this impactful and help you rise. Trust what we raise. It's 50% of yourself, as you mentioned. It's great. And to be honest about yourself about it, to empower that rising generation, to give them the chance to take the risks because they'll have the rewards, and it will be sometimes painful, but they will learn out of it. And then sharing. I think the Wingspan Forum is amazing for it, sharing your experiences, speaking to peers. I think it's so important. There's a lot that we can still ask, but conscious of time, I think is great. I think what I hear is the in a sense, the luck you had of having a father like you had, who very quickly put his trust in you. The importance of being well surrounded is one of those questions that came up, and I think it's for you it was amazing. I think for the third generation, they're very fortunate to have a mother or an aunt like you. So very lucky, but it's not always the case. Even in when there's wealth, there's not always the case that you can count on a father or a mother that's inspirational. So yeah, it's all about educating yourself at every generation, and I think that's a great insight you've shared with us today. So
thank you very much for hosting this, Arno, and it's great that Trusted Families, at Wingspan, and we're sharing these things. If somebody catches one sentence that helps, it helps everybody.
It so does. And I love spending time with you because you really are an educator, and maybe you're a rising gen into the education space because, being vulnerable, sharing these stories, and, really kind of being able to talk about change. Many families don't want to talk about change. And ironically, without change, the families don't continue to succeed. And so I'm so proud that you came on and all that
Thank you do.
And I also would say, I've seen you and you want your kids to fail at things as well. It's important. And I think at least I am, and I'm betting on the rising gen. I have 3, I have 2 graduating college next week, and I'm betting on them to do things I haven't even thought needed to be done. Yeah. And so let's empower them and collaborate with them. So thank you for being on.
Thank you very much for having me. I benefit and learn from these too, even from the questions.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emine. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Keep safe.